So welcome to the next episode of Business in AI, the podcast from UK AI, where we look at really fascinating businesses that are using AI. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Annie Krukowska from Animo TV. So Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. And I'm absolutely delighted. And I'm delighted to be a member of UK AI. It's a brilliant place to learn and network. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
Well, thank you. Well, it's great to have you as part of the community, and I know we've kind of met a couple of times already at various events, and it's wonderful to have you within this community where everyone comes from slightly different backgrounds and different industries, and are able to share from their experience. So, for our audience, could you tell us a bit about your background and what you've been doing, and then how it leads into what you're now doing at Animo TV?
Yeah, so I used to grow businesses inside big corporates in TV industry like ITV, Sky, Now TV, BBC Studios, and even TalkTalk, our internet service provider in the UK. And now I do it for my clients. So I'm a founder of annimoIQ, what I like to call the design and execution partner for TV growth. But what this really means is that we help TV content owners and streamers unlock more value by combining commercial innovation, things like new monetization formats beyond just advertising, operational efficiencies, and when it makes sense, we also build AI agents and automation. In short, we don't just advise, we don't produce just decks, PowerPoint decks, we design and execute growth.
Fascinating. And I'm really keen to find out more about how you're using this specifically within the TV industry. I mentioned briefly that many years ago, I was in TV. I worked at the BBC, and it was right at the time in the early 2000s when the whole concept of IPTV and online TV was still very new. And frankly, we were still sort of struggling with DVDs, right, and licensing of that.
Oh, yes. You're showing your age now, but I was there with you, so we're showing both our age.
Yeah, so and that's a transformation that we were going through then, and it's fascinating in some ways to see the similarities and the parallels with that first sort of dot-com boom, sort of online sort of transformation, with what we're going through now with AI. And I wondered, what's your perspective on that, and how do you see AI now changing the way that the TV content is consumed?
Yes, I think that the milestones or the changes, the inflection points you mentioned, they were powerful, but I think that AI is forcing TV to rethink its foundations. So it's not just the pivot, it's not just adopting new technology. As an example of this shift that I think isn't fully understood or appreciated, consider, for example, the content or video management. Because of AI, we should really be moving from tagging or labeling content with text, we call this metadata, to understand content's meaning with AI. So content has to be understood semantically by machines as well as people. People increasingly use ChatGPT and other AI or LLM-based tools to search for something to watch. And then that content needs to also unlock new discovery and monetization models. If it's tagged with text, and if it's tagged with the sort of the basic description of what's inside the piece of episode or series, that's becoming invisible, not just to audiences, but also to all the recommendation engines. So this is just one example of how seismic this shift is to catalogs. But obviously, AI also changes operations, like how catalogs are distributed, highlights are cut, archives resurfaced and scheduled. So And AI isn't just an automation or efficiency tool, which I still feel the industry, and perhaps it's not just TV specific, a lot of people don't think of AI as a growth tool, growth layer, especially for TV. It transforms, it creates more monetization opportunities and commercial innovation beyond just advertising. So yes, I feel it's a really we need to rethink the foundation of the industry and allow AI to help us with rethink the growth.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I want to unpack. It's absolutely but let me just go back to the discovery bit of it, because the business that I co-founded about 7 years ago actually uses semantic processing and natural language processing. And what we do is we use the knowledge graph and entities to be able to read content like a human would, to then be able to well, understand what's really on the page or what's really in the video content. So I come from that background as well. I love what you're saying here about having that deeper understanding rather than just using those kind of very flat, discrete sort of keywords that might not actually convey the full depth of meaning of a TV program. But just to elaborate on that a little bit more, why do you think that, or how does that serve the need of the viewers? And has the viewer is the viewer sort of shifting in a bit? I'm thinking about my own personal viewing habits on Netflix, and I'm always a little bit disappointed that the recommendations aren't better. But would using semantic analysis, would that allow a more personalized journey and surfacing of programs which are actually more interesting?
Spot on. I can see that, I can hear that I'm talking with the insider in TV industry. So actually Netflix and companies like YouTube and Amazon Prime, unsurprisingly, they're probably at the forefront of, I mean, of the semantic search and getting it right. Although, it's still early days. But yes, it's definitely, when it's coming to personalization, the holy grail of TV. AI allows us to do it, but only if the catalog is semantically understood. As you say, your business used to do it. So I work with the incredible founder, and I don't know if this is the appropriate moment to name the names, but there is a innovator who builds an LLM for video. So all the LLMs at the moment, like ChatGPTs or OpenAI and others, are based on the text and resurfacing text. So that's what we called earlier metadata, the tags, the labels. When here we're talking about resurfacing video, understanding the video at the frame level, and then when the audience or when the user will type a prompt, it will actually resurface more examples of video and more proofs of what the prompt is asking for, rather than just hallucinating jumble of text. And because it understands frame by frame of what is the emotion in the video, what is the what are the brands that are being mentioned, what is the the look of the individuals in the video. And so that will make it much more personalized, and the genres, the episodes, the description of what's in the video over time is going to disappear, because ultimately these pieces of content will be becoming invisible to AI searchers that people like you and I will be using more and more often for recommendation.
Yeah. And when you think about the journey that TV has been on in the last, couple of decades, it's changed completely, hasn't it? From that linear view where you'd actually sit down and expect to see a schedule of TV programs to something which you're describing now, which is not just the recommendation engines we have now, but it's almost surfacing the things we didn't know we were be interested in, but oh wow, there it is. And it's come to be almost that personalized, completely personalized journey. So in that context, how are businesses able to monetize content? And do you see that it's going to be no longer just the bigger players? Are you seeing sort of smaller players come up, and is that now their opportunity?
Well, yes. I mean, AI is this sort of truly democratizing tool or technology or products based. At least that's what we being led to believe, that, you know, even individuals and civilians can build tools with AI and apps and all that. And that's probably partially true. But, you know, ultimately, the big companies own the most desirable catalog. But let's not forget about now the creators economy. And that's, you know, the individuals that they film themselves, you know, all the influencers, that really, that's where the advertising money goes to as well. So that's already a proof that the individual could become a powerful and profitable massive media company. You know, there are examples that, you know, all over the world, not just in the Western world, and America especially. So that's one thing. The AI almost isn't needed for that. You know, I think that the modern technology allows us to do it. One thing which with the TV and the bigger companies, what I'm noticing is that the challenge isn't a vision when it's coming to AI. It's more of a where the integration happens and how we think about AI as a sort of bolt-on experiment still, rather than sort of think about the end-to-end operating model and rethink this with true understanding of what AI can do to improve it or to change it. So often AI is treated, as I said, as a bolt-on experiment. It's still dealt with the innovation departments and budgets. So, and you know what happens to pilots? They often don't scale. So the key is to start for the big companies to start to think with a specific high value use case, like semantic discovery or automated content ops or new monetization formats, and then build whether AI agent or automation with intent, rather than just look at the workflow. And I'm sure that I'm not saying anything new, that must be happening across industries, looking at the workflow and think, which part could we automate? When I say, it's like, no, think whether you actually even need this part, because now you have AI, maybe you can cut out a chunk of it and make sure that you design AI to be a self-learning system. So I think that's still, it's not sinking in. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And just sort of the key thing is, especially for the big corporates and the big companies, to take the thinking about efficiencies, cutting cost, automation, and let's use the AI agent into what a revolution can we really achieve with this incredible technology. I don't know if I'm answering your question, because I just went waxing lyrical about my you know, chips on my shoulder.
No, that's all good. It's interesting. And I think what you were describing then reminds me of some of these models that I've seen in other sectors, where there is definitely a need for companies to have some advice on how to find the component parts, the vendors who are providing the AI solutions, because the bigger companies just don't have the time to be able to get in and understand it. And it sounds like you're providing a similar solution within the TV ecosystem.
Yeah, that's where we focus at annimoIQ. I mean, we don't advocate to use AI because it's there. So that's the important distinction. You know, sometimes AI makes sense as a technology to achieve certain goals with the clients, or for the clients. But yes, we're moving from concept to execution. So whether it's a workflow that automates promo creation or an AI-driven monetization layer. You know, the value comes when AI is part of the operations, not when it stays in a lab, or even worse, in a slide deck on the executive's desk. So, but yes, that's exactly what we do. But the education and the learning curve, it's, you know, it's not. It's real.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to kind of hear as well, you know, what type of briefs you're getting from your clients, because in some industries you still hear that the direction they're giving is really vague. So a CEO or the board will say, we need to have AI, not really knowing what that means, and then they'll give it to the middle management. He'll panic and go off and sort of like try and build some AI thing, and then it's sort of AI for AI's sake still. Whereas this is why I'd be really interested to get your perspective. In the TV industry, I imagine there's much more focus on specifics and building a brief and a real need. But is that your experience? Are you seeing people actually coming with much more clear idea of the problems they want to solve?
No, and yes. I mean, one thing, we are very specialized. We're specializing in growth, in revenue growth, in designing growth layers for monetization of content. So we are not necessarily just saying we will build AI for you. And if I had a brief saying build me AI agent to replace this part or to create XYZ, I probably will refuse it, or just have a serious conversation, unpack it deeper. What really is the need? Because as with any technology, and I'm sure I'm not saying again anything new, it's the business need, it's the value that should dictate what technology and how it is used, and enabling it. So yes, luckily we don't have build me an AI briefs, and as I said, I would refuse it and discuss it further. But the briefs we getting is well, to make it easier, the easiest way to tap into our expertise, the sort of entry point, we've got a subscription. So the advisory and execution based on subscription model. So we get an online brief. It could be anything around growing content catalog, optimization of the operations, business development, even strategy, as long as there is an execution bit that follows. As I said, I'm shying away from just pure decks with no delivery. So, and then what we say that once we've got this brief, we discuss it with the client in more details. And then within the week, we've got the roadmap and the answers of how to deliver it. And the things would vary from, as I said, product roadmaps, business development, strategy, go-to-market, companies, especially American companies, tapping into the European market. So it varies, but I definitely, as I say, I think I'm repeating myself for the nth time, I would have problem with, I won't accept the brief saying, build me an AI nugget.
Yeah, good. But I think it's all part of that learning journey, right? And I characterize it as that because that's just a kind of easy way of kind of being able to present that sort of like top-down approach. But we're seeing less of it, I think, now, as people are starting to recognize that there's actually kind of more nuance to it. But as you're getting these briefs in from your clients, what are some of the hardest things for TV companies to do when it actually comes to implementing? And what are your ways to help them overcome it?
Well, the hardest I haven't had one that it was, unsurmountable. We are a fairly young organization, that's I have to point as well. But from my corporate experience, I mean, I build products and ventures inside businesses for almost 20 years. The hardest is almost the ones which are trying to sort of keep the existing framework or infrastructure and bolt something on and make it work. I remember, I'm not going to name the broadcaster, one of the leading broadcaster in the UK. It was the whole end-to-end process and technology was stuffed full of Excel spreadsheets with macros at the back, running a huge chunks of business. So, replacing these or building the bolt-ons that really seemingly integrate into the tired, layered infrastructure, whether it's technology, whether it's processes or people or ways of working, that's always the hardest part. And I feel that this is where AI and rethinking these operating models in a sort of, I hate the word, holistic way, as the only word comes to mind. It's the opportunity to sort of don't just make what Henry Ford used to say. about cars and horses. Don't just replace horses or something like that. Just, just think about it as a car, as long as it's black.
Yeah.
So it's not about replacement. Yes, sorry.
No, he said if he'd asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
When we're giving them car now, so that goes with a bigger change.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it is. It's that's part of the exciting thing about the AI industry in totality, right? Is that
should be, yes.
Yeah, it's all new. And we literally are creating things like new cars when people are used to horses, because every single bit of it, from small to large, processes or individual components, they're all new things. And that's the sort of the exciting part. I want to sort of ask you in particular about the production side of things, because I know you work across many different aspects of it, and the commercial is always going to be the goal. But I've seen that the sort of the production side has really sort of increased. I judge a couple of film awards, AI film awards, and I've been sort of really amazed. Last year, the quality was good. I was kind of blown away by the quality of these short films. They're only 5 or 10 seconds long, each of the clips, before they edit, because that's how long it could output, and then they could have stitched these all together. But what was lacking a year ago was that there was no real dialogue, no real plot or structure. Because it's basically young people from around the world in their bedrooms kind of making things that look beautiful visually, but they have none of the craft or the art that we're used to seeing in sort of TV or film. Earlier on this year, there was the same film awards, so a year on, and the quality of the actual output is still even more beautiful. Okay. But what now is the dialogue has started to increase. Partly the kids in their bedroom, they're using ChatGPT now to write some dialogue, but also what's more interesting is that the wider community of people from the TV world, script writers, film writers, people who understand dialogue, who understand how film and TV work, they're now reskilling later in life, and they're sort of using these tools now, maybe collaborating sometimes with the kids in the bedrooms, and so it started to mature. So that's kind of my experience of it in the last sort of year or so. But I'd love to hear your perspective and how you see AI tools coming into the production process and how they're being used.
I love your example. I think it's a brilliant. I'm not aware of the festival you mentioned, and I probably should follow more and get deeper into the creative part of AI. But I felt that there was a moment when everybody were arming and ahhing about Gen AI, when I feel that there is so much more to AI that is going to change our world. It's not necessarily the creative end. But yeah, this one is fascinating. I agree. It looks like that it's the matter of developing skills for new tools. So first, talk to ChatGPT and be at the mercy of sort of, the LLM predicting the next word, i.e. by design, resurfacing what's average, what's abundant in what the AI was trained on, versus now humans actually, by the sound of things, coming back to give some uniqueness and originality and the storyline in addition to LLM. So that's all good. That's I suppose how it's supposed to work. Yeah. Humans are not obsolete by any stretch of imagination. Yeah. But what I experienced Gen AI when I was in my last role in Publicis production. I mean, Publicis is hats off to this huge global agency full of AI and really pioneering a lot of thinking as well as technology. I learned a lot there, and I'm grateful for it. But one thing which I heard, the sort of early feedback from creative agencies, from creative people in general, was that AI will not replace creativity. And I felt a little bit conflicted about it. And now I feel that actually it's not true. It's going to happen. Because what do we think creativity is? Especially when all the unique and innovative content and creatives are being locked behind the paywall to stop LLMs and open AIs of this world scraping it to feed the algorithm that is really running the culture and the world now, or will be. We're going to almost lower the bar of what we mean by creative and original, I feel, with AI. There's a danger of that, but in some ways, our tastes and our perception of what's original, what's art, what's creative is going to probably change as well. So we will have more of a tolerance for lesser experience. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly or right or clearly, but that's how I feel, that I genuinely think that what the creatives are fearing and say that is never going to happen, I think AI is already proving to be as creative, if not more creative than humans. I'm talking individuals and obviously generalizing. So
it overlaps with what we were talking about at the beginning, though, doesn't it? That personalization. Because if you are trying to get content which is relevant to the specific needs of an individual, which you've managed to determine from all the data we were talking about, then you can use Gen AI tools to create content which is really relevant to them. And it's sort of I don't know, at one level you kind of think, well, that would be really sort of boring and a bit sort of like superficial. But then you look at, I've got teenage daughters, and my eldest loves TikTok, and I can't get my head around it, right? Because there's tiny little clips of content at such a low quality, but it's, for her generation, that is the norm. And I wonder,
it's TV.
Exactly, right? And so then, if we layer on top where we were just talking about that personalization, almost kind of one-to-one personalization of content at a level of quality that doesn't have to be the BBC high definition level, then actually that starts to look like something that can be created quite easily by AI. Yeah. So what does that mean then for the industries that we've kind of grown up in which are full of creatives, people who are, the David Attenboroughs of this world, and sort of like, the people who are award-winning camera directors? What does it mean for them?
Well, they need to, I feel, I don't want to use the word upgrade, but they need to almost transition to or extend the toolkit. Like we talked earlier, the people in charge of all the storylines and dialogues now tapping into what was just computer machine bot generated, and now it's so much better. They, I'm sure that the craft or art, it's changed because they're working with AI, but so they extended or expanded the toolkit, the way how they works. And I feel that everybody, whatever industry, whatever job, we really have to now spend as much time as possible to almost like rethink about where can we add value to the new world. It's not about that everybody needs to be building automation with AI. No, but perhaps even being super efficient at prompting, and don't think of prompt as a search, Google search, experimenting, upskilling, change skilling, whatever we call this. It's there's so many creators, so many builders that they are now working with AI that it's none of the regulations, none of the governments are going to suddenly stop it. This is the reality. So we have to make intentional effort to be part of it, or we will become, I don't want to say obsolete, but we'll be on the margins. So I really recommend everybody at least prompt on the Sunday afternoon with kids, and just see what works, what doesn't, how to improve it, what thinking it triggers, and that's probably enough to majority of people.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of things there. You're absolutely right. We need more people to have confidence just playing around with basic Gen AI tools to understand, because the majority of people, I think, across the UK have a certain anxiety about what AI is. One, because it's such a broad term. They don't actually sort of know whether it's the Gen AI or some of the other things, which, you know, there's a lot of AI which is used in everyday things that people don't realize, like the
exactly, yes.
Yeah, exactly, or the kind of the weather, things like that. But so that's kind of one thing. But this is, as a trade organization, you've probably seen that we're calling for broader AI education and earlier AI education in schools. Broader, we mean by that not just the technical skills, but also just that broader literacy and confidence to be able to use AI, because that's the only way in which then consumers will have the trust to start to buy the products and services which we're selling, but also as employees, and they'll have the trust to engage with the AI tools which they have in their company. And both of those are really important to actually sort of get AI adoption in the UK.
Yeah.
But I want to come back to
just to say, you're doing amazing job. So, you know, women and AI and the sort of each individual chapters focusing on not just the regional ones, but just, you know, focusing on different industries. I think I'm so happy to you know, to be part of it. So thank you for that. It's important what you do.
Thank you, Annie. I appreciate that. Thank you. And well, you know, and part of what we're trying to do there is really to bring in the different communities to really sort of share in what we're doing, because there's so much commonality. And I think, you know, it ladders up to this concept of responsible AI, that we're trying to create a responsible AI industry with all the different sort of subsectors in it. Well, I also wanted to come back to what you were talking about before in terms of the creativity, the human creativity, because I think that's a really important point as well. And, you know, we could do a whole nother podcast on.
Please, let's do it. We should bring the whole discussion.
Well, maybe actually we should do a webinar, because I think there's some other people I'd love to bring to the conversation too. But just to a quick thought on it was that, you know, that I'm seeing this concept now more of augmented humans. So rather than replacing humans, we're actually trying to augment them, and that's what gives them the superpower. It takes away those kind of the boring, repetitive tasks, but it allows humans to do the things which only humans can do, and only humans are sort of good at doing. In a previous episode, I was talking to one of our members, Model Prop, who work in the estate agent world, and they were saying that actually estate agents initially feared bringing in AI tools, but actually it takes away all of the things they don't like doing, the sort of the form filling and the kind of writing up particulars, all that kind of stuff. It allows them to do the things which they're really good at doing, which is interacting with people and having that human approach. And I thought that was a really sort of like really, you know, it really resonated, because across so many different sectors, including creative sectors, there are things which humans are very good at, which you can't replace. And I know at some point there might be a way of replacing it, but there's something very sort of almost visceral around TV. You know, it has that sort of emotional impact on humans. It is so human that I think that's the bit of the creativity that we won't be able to replace with a machine for quite a long time. Yeah.
Considering that humans, you know, I mean, you mentioned your daughter. You know, TV is consumed completely differently to how we consumed it, how we met around the big, you know, telly in the living room. In Poland, when I was growing up, you know, sometimes you open the window and you hear, you know, the whole street, you know, watching the same football match or watching the same music, you know, concert or whatever it is. We don't do it anymore. So. You know, even though TV or the content, you know, evokes emotions, you know, that's why advertising is so incredibly popular and so effective and created so many brands, you know, throughout the decades of TV. You know, we consume it differently. So the emotions I think are evoked differently by the, you know, 30-second piece of content versus, you know, the 2 hours of Bridget Jones' Diary, you know, so I think that's changes as well. So I think that the creativity there will change as well, the concept of creativity. Now we talk about, I don't know if you're aware, the biggest craze in the industry are the Nano-Dramas. So they are flickable, proper story arc, proper storytelling, series, but with episodes that are only a couple of minutes, or maybe even less than a couple of minutes, and they end on a hook. You want to watch more. So sort of, what sort of experience and emotions if this evokes, and there will be the first ones, which will be probably totally, fully created by Gen AI, I would imagine. So it's all in flux, it's all change. And I think that we should almost detach ourselves from the terms that we used that evoked certain meaning and emotions when we were, growing up and consuming our first TV. What is TV? And is it the thing on the big screen, like the one behind me? Is TV? Is this what we're watching on the mobile? Is TV? The Nano-Dramas? So I think that everything is going to be. We cannot say that the creativity in TV and the emotions even going to stay the same. They are already moving with the new generations that doesn't know what linear TV is.
I think we found a fascinating topic for a webinar here. I'd
yes.
love to be back to have this with you and other people.
That's why I love my industry so much.
Yeah, well, I'll also get you along to MoonMax as well, which was the film festival. So it's the MoonMax AI Film Awards, run by Ben Gordon, one of our members as well. But we often have a panel discussion there where we touch upon some of these issues around creativity as well. So I think it'd be interesting to get you along to that.
I have to warn you, I can be opinionated as well. So they might kick me out for when I talk to them about IP and protection of, the chatbots, the bot scrubbing of content. But otherwise, yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Well, I mean, again, that's a whole nother webinar, which we're coming to kind of like on copyright. But I'm just conscious of time, and I wanted to ask you one last question, which was around your book, because I know you've written a book called The AI Life Coach.
Yes.
Firstly, can you tell us a bit about it and what inspired you to write it, and how does it connect with what you're doing in TV?
Well, it's probably not so much for TV, but maybe AI. Well, it is about growth. So yes, the AI life coach came from my experience of sort of navigating a massive change after, leaving the corporate world behind and some personal big changes. So in those dark and challenging moments, sometimes just talking to a bot is what worked for me. So I thought, I would like to share my learning in a book or a webinar. Originally, I think it was going to be a webinar, but it also, the way how it's designed is just basically full of prompts. It helps people to use AI as a reflective partner, or, to ask sort of sharper question, make better decisions about their growth, their personal life, communication, where are we heading with jobs. But also what's important, people would learn how to prompt as a skill and an art. So I think it's the sort of very human entry point into AI. So, and it also connects to my work in TV because it's about growth, as I mentioned. So whether for a person or a platform, depends on asking the right question and sort of structuring better answers, whether, TV or human. So Brilliant. That's why I wrote it. It's available on Amazon.
Fantastic. The AI life coach, there you go. Well, I think again, not wanting to kind of pull you into another sort of thread, but there is actually an event we've got coming up. It's probably going to be late October, November now, which is looking at mental health and AI. So it's very relevant to get your input there as well, because I think there are clearly a number of challenges around people relying upon particularly chat GPT or other chatbots. Mm-hmm. To provide sort of cures for loneliness or kind of support, but there's also a number of solutions and giving some great examples there as well. So we're keen to bring all of that together in a roundtable where we discuss.
I would love to, because as I said, from personal experience, I would love to share the lessons with others if I can, and hence the book came about. But it looks like there is a webinar for everything in UK AI, and I love it. I love the community.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. And looking forward to getting you along to that. So we'll have to wrap up now. But just before we do, how can we find out more about Annimo and stay in touch with you?
So find me on LinkedIn It's Ani or Agnieszka Krukowska. We better spell it maybe somewhere in the description of this video, but also my website, annimo.co.uk. And obviously part of UK AI.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and we could talk for hours more, and we will talk for hours more. Get you back.
I hope so.
But it's been great to have you on today. Thank you so much, Annie.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.